I'm going to take you guys through two games that I just played. They're both pretty quick, 5-minute games. I'm in that 1500 to 1600 elo range. So let's get started. The main thing is I didn't want to do this live because I spend too much time thinking. So start here with fianchettoing the kingside bishop, and he takes complete center control, which I wasn't really sure what to do with. I'm playing different openings these days, and like right here I just gave him complete center control. So definitely not great, but trying to develop my pieces nonetheless. Trying to chip away at the center. Trying to, he kind of weakened his king there. So, okay, let's chip away at the center pawns, and then hopefully we'll be ahead in development, whereas he's kind of stuck having moved all his pawns at the start. So we have a development lead in the major pieces, and he has, a better setup in the center with the pawns. So that's kind of the battle that we have going on right now. And I'm just pushing his pieces around right now. I attacked the bishop twice with tempo, so I was able to move my pieces out while he was just having to retreat his, and so I see that as a win. And now here, he moves this pawn up on the H file, so I'm thinking right away, like, how can I get the queen and the bishop involved to strike down those pieces? That's really the strategy, because like I said, he weakened his kingside by pushing so heavily with the pawns that, like, I'm looking to sacrifice a bishop here. And you can see there, I'm like signaling, okay, I know he's going to push a pawn here. I know I'm going to sacrifice a bishop or a knight for 2 pawns, but I was happy doing that. And so I end up taking with the knight, as you see, and now his king is completely exposed. And so it's like, okay, let's push the pawns. Like, we need to be aggressive. His queen is no longer pinned. He just moved it out of the way. I'm thinking, okay, how can I check him? That's all I'm trying to do is find checks, pins, and throw everything on his king side down the board. I should keep pushing the pawns here. I moved the rook up. I was thinking about checking him on g5, but just wasn't really possible, so I had to retreat back again. But I'm just thinking, like, okay, do I need to make another sacrifice somewhere in the center of the board? You can see me there. I'm looking at it right now. And what I probably should be doing is pushing the pawns further. That might even be what I end up doing here. Some type of rook stack is what I should be looking at. And there, I push the pawn again. He takes, and now we have an open file on the g file. So he has no pawns. I have no pawns. Immediately, that's a weakness on his part. So we're just trying to infiltrate. And you can see that he's been playing defense this entire time because he was aggressive on getting the lead in the center early, and that's the trade-off, right? So as soon as he did that, I'm like, okay, we got to attack all out on this side. I'm deciding what to do here. I don't actually remember exactly the order of moves here or how this finishes. I'm considering sacking the knight there on e2 and then recapturing with the bishop, some sort of check. But yeah, we're just keep pushing up the board. He attacks the queen, so I'm just trying to look to put it in a spot that's going to be advantageous. I'm thinking maybe h5 to double up with the rooks, with the rook, and then support that bishop there. But he has his king blocking the knight for my pawn. And yeah, we're just trying to get the queen in position here to potentially checkmate him on g2 there. He obviously sees that. And now I kind of start to rotate my strategy because he's got it pretty locked down. Like, I can't really afford to trade anything because I'm down 3 pieces of material. And that's what that sacrifice did, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, is it time to start to rotate the board? I'm threatening to take the knight there. Obviously, he defends it. And he pretty much locks up the position here. So I really struggled with breaking this down. He protected the knight that way. At this point, I wish I could just erase my own pawn there on h3, but it's like, okay, we're kind of jammed up on the left side of the board there, so let's free up this right side, and that's exactly what I start doing. So take the pawn there. Now I'm thinking, okay, probably should move the king out of the way, get the rook sliding over, and then trying to do some type of check from the right side of the board. So I believe that is what I do here shortly. All this time I was calculating some type of sacrificing the center of the board, taking 2 pawns for 1 piece, but I'm already down a piece, right? So it's a bit risky to do right now. And then here I'm thinking, okay, I want the rook on that file. Ideally, we want to get it to b2. So how are we going to do that? That pawn of mine on the a file, if I push that up, then I can move the knight there, and then I can get that knight on that really attractive c4 square. So I know that is what I do fairly soon here. Yeah, there we go. So I'm thinking, okay, immediately knight to a5, and then that knight can jump into c4, and then it can really get involved. Like it can go to e3 after that, and then we're starting to look at checkmates or something like that, right? And yeah, we're both down, both getting near 2 minutes of our original 5. You can see me there kind of signaling with my mouse that that's where I want the knight, because it would kick his queen. I was also being aware that like he does have easy access to my king right now if he makes a few moves, so we wouldn't want his queen to get down on the a file or like down to a7 or something like that. So I figure all is safe. I can jump that knight into c4 pretty quick here, and then I can start to infiltrate the position. Let's see what he does, though. He really slowed down. He was beating me by time, I think, by about a minute. Now here he's attacking my bishop on the g file, so I'm like, where can I move it? Because if he takes and I recapture with the pawn, he's going to take it with the rook, and then I'm down another piece, right? So, but I'm like, okay, I can attack the queen first, then worry about moving that bishop. And that was probably the winning move right there. Or I guess I spoiled it for you, but getting that knight there on c4, making him move the queen, and then I'm able to potentially push that rook down the b file, threatening his, you see that knight he's got on f2, so that's another possibility. And it does get to a point where I maybe accept the fact that I could lose the bishop on the g4 square, but I've really advanced this position. So now I believe, yeah, I moved the rook in there, so now he can't move that knight on f2 until he blocks, which he does. Now here I'm about to do a pretty smart move, so I think my next move is moving the bishop to a3. And so you might think, okay, well, aren't I just losing the bishop then? But no, because if he takes it with the knight, then my rook takes on f2. He still cannot take my rook. Obviously, it's protected by that knight and that bishop there. So he's really kind of in trouble here. My next move, if he didn't address this, was to move the rook and just take that pawn, and then that would be a discover attack on his queen with my bishop. And so he's really stuck in his own end now. He decides to take my bishop, and I check him, and now I'm just looking for, okay, there, we got a check. Once again, we're always looking for checks. His only option is to block or take, so he takes with the rook, and from this point, he only has one more option, and I believe he resigns here. Yeah, there we go. So victory number 1, great to see. This time we have a 15-18. I start with my typical English opening, I guess. No, reverse Sicilian, I don't know. I don't know the names. I just play them. And doing a better job. You know, this game we're like, okay, let's do a better job controlling the center with our pawns. Both opponents, I think, moved their kingside bishop pawn, which is a total glaring weakness. So it's a bit strange, but yeah, that's what they chose to do. So I didn't really like it because I don't ever want to lose one of those center 2 pawns for a pawn outside of that. And so I wasn't sure how to address this. Like I don't want to take the pawn on f5 there, so because then I'm just giving up a better pawn for one of his worst pawns. Even though it's free right now, he's going to recapture it at some point in the future. And so I'll just worry about my tempo, I'll worry about my development, and not take free meaningless pawns that I'm going to lose back later anyways. And so calculating here, if he takes the e4 pawn and I take the bishop on e7, just making sure that he's not going to come out of that ahead of, you know, as you can see, coming out ahead. Can't remember exactly what I do here. Okay, I just take to be safe. I spent a lot of time thinking there, and I'm already down time. So he castles. I was trying to get a better grasp of the center here. Okay, so he forks my knight. I cannot remember what happens here. Probably just we castle here, right? No, I don't think we do. We get a bit more aggressive and move the queen out. I think I was hoping, I was hoping that he would take so I could recapture with the g-pawn and then have an open file on his king. I was hoping to be aggressive on this one, so. So he takes, I take. That was kind of my plan. Getting the rook out there onto the g1 square, and then I just thought, okay, let's be aggressive. Let's. So he takes, and this was, okay, which pawn do I take with, right? And here I actually spot a pretty good tactic. So I'm thinking if I take with the e pawn, then he takes my f3 pawn. I can sacrifice the bishop there and check him and take his rook. And so what happens here, I decide, okay, yep, that works for me because my f3 pawn is protected, because if he takes, then we're checking the king, and then we got the free rook. And that was a good little tactic there. Ultimately, I took the rook, and I was up 2 pieces because of it. So I thought I could check him here with the queen on h5, but his queen is protecting his bishop. So I'm just like, okay, king safety. I'm not castled. Let's get it ASAP to that left side of the board. Tuck it in between those pawns even would be perfect. I'm just making sure that I'm not going to get some type of weird fork or check or him taking that pawn on my f2 square. So he checks me there. Nothing to deal with. I move the rook out to protect, because I knew that he was going to start lining stuff up on that f2 pawn, right? So he's now got 2 attackers on my f2 pawn, assuming I move the queen. But I'm up material, right? So a trade works perfectly well for me right now, and that's what I'm hoping for. So I just offer up the queen trade there. He should not take that. Like, if you're losing a material, you should be not trading queens. Just makes no sense. And so I was expecting him here to try to attack that pawn. And I actually do make a mistake, I'm pretty sure. I move this. I know he's going to try to double up on the e3 pawn there. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to be able to protect it with both my rooks, which I calculate that I can. But I end up moving it up because I was thinking I could then slide it over to b3 and then attack his pawns up there. But that wasn't smart because he actually could have done something here where he moved his rook down to f2, and then he basically wins that h2 pawn. But thankfully, he did not move it down. He actually just moved it across to h3. And so I was able to keep protecting both pawns at the same time. And so, yeah, I was feeling pretty safe here. Now that I kind of have the position locked down, there's no way he can come in and take that pawn unless he runs his king all the way down. So I know we have time. I remove my king from that pin with that pawn there. And now I'm thinking, okay, let's just trade more pieces, right? If we can trade the rooks, awesome. So I revealed that attack, and then he just misses the free rook trade. And so ultimately, I mean, that's lost, right? There's no way he's coming back from that. And he resigns. So 2 very quick games. I wasn't intending on only showing you guys victories. Sometimes you can learn more from a loss, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. And please let me know if these types of videos are useful, and I'll bring more of them to you guys. So thank you guys. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video.